demand. This should be a less expensive book. It's a big book, but by print on demand, it's so expensive. Well, Tex has now printed up a bunch of these, so we have them. Mike finally got it published by Tex Mars, big publishing house, which is one of the most all-time selling authors of all time. Did you know that about Tex Mars? These guys sold 100 million books or something. It's pretty crazy. But side issue or something like that. I mean, he used to write the armed service training manuals that they would take to take the test for decades. So that's why he's so many in print. But I'm now ranting off into a factoid. Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy, Mike Hansen, forward by Tex Mars, is now available at InfoWarsShop.com. If you want all the backstory, all the details, all the little factoids about our infiltration and so much more, there is no other book like it. There is no other book like it, and that's what we carry at InfoWarsShop.com. We carry the things, there's nothing else like it. We have the guests that are the best, the most informed. We have the researchers, the economists that have the best track records. We are about reality. Mainstream media could get it right if they wanted to most of the time, but there's an agenda there. They're not... CNBC doesn't report, false financial news the majority of the time, as they've been proven to do, getting it wrong because they're idiots. They're zigging when they're telling you to zag. This is a sucker system, and we don't like it. We don't like scammers. We don't like frauds, and so we're here to promote and sell things that then support our operation to keep reaching out to others and creating a platform for folks like our guest that's coming up. So, Clouded Titles at InfoWarsShop.com, and Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy, Mike Hansen, forward by Tex Mars. This is just out, this new edition, available at InfoWarsShop.com, or call 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or you can also just give us a call, as I said, at that number. But we also have some other numbers posted there on the website, or write to us at P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760. Straight ahead, the bankers, they're not just getting trillions in bailouts. They're stealing houses. We'll be right back to break it down. Stay with us, and I'll have some breaking news on the UN gun treaty. It's ultra-massive. Let me ask you a question. What does free... Aaron Dykes, for 20 minutes during the breaks, has been running up to me saying, please, this is so important. I've written this article. What headline do you want? Because they usually do their own headlines, but this was so important. I was struggling the last hour, but the last 20 minutes we were in brainstorms during the break. What headline do we give it? The magnitude, how incredible it is. Our problem is never being sensational enough. Reality is so sensational. How do we break through this Berlin Wall of disinformation? How do we... The UN treaty is now out. And they're all over the news going, it says individual rights. Well, the final treaty came out. I showed you last Friday in studio with Bob Dacey the last 3 versions going back to 2001. 2001, July 7th, where they got it all officially, ratified at the UN and then go to the states, the countries, they call them states. And then the 2005 one and the 2009 one. And guess what? We got the final draft. And it's got notes in there by the French about how, we need this to be binding because we're going to totally ban guns now. They've already restricted them. I mean, it is muy bad. And it says individual rights of states to defend themselves. That's how the clauses are. Oh, it is so wild. And folks, this is what's crazy. This was leaked 2 days ago. Good job to Examiner and others that picked up on it. We went, checked. It's true. It's real. We're breaking it now because when Infowars breaks it, it's really out there. And we went over it. We checked it. Turns out it was put on a UN website. They'll kind of put these out in the back channel. That's how Lord Moncton is always finding it. And I do not have a headline. Aaron is sitting in there. He went with bombshell, UN caught infringing on individual rights and gun treaty. And I guess that's it. But I mean, they keep saying we won't take our individual guns, but everywhere the UN goes, they confiscate guns, Rwanda and other places. They say that, I mean, my mind is spinning right now because everywhere the globalists are in control, New York, Chicago, total gun ban. The cities they control, Paris, total gun ban. England, almost total gun ban. You can have them locked up at a gun club where there's cops there when you get them out to shoot at a shooting range. And then royalty can get special permits or whatever to go hunting. I mean, it's virtually impossible. And they're trying that here. And Obama came out and said, yeah, get rid of semi-autos. He's got all these Republicans calling for it. Bill Kristol on Fox News, Rupert Murdoch. I mean, yes, if you didn't see that, look it up. It's happening. You didn't think they'd pass socialist health care. It's here. It's happening. I mean, they say the #1 terror threat's returning veterans. I mean, people didn't believe that document when I got it until they admitted it was real. This is Tyranny is crazy. The TSA sticking their hands down your pants is crazy. We're going to go to our in-studio guest, who we had on last week, but the shooting broke, so we moved him to today, and now this is breaking. What headline do I give this? Then we're going to move to our guest, because this is a maximum alert. We got to tweet this out. We need everybody to get this out to everyone. This is so important right now. Bombshell, UN caught infringing on individual rights and gun treaty. I want it red linked. I have to multitask here, folks. As you know, we do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff here on air. What do we have? What headline? What headline? What headline? I know it'll just come to me in a moment. It's up at Infowars right now, but that just doesn't. They were caught in treachery. They were caught lying. Let me ask, got a fellow journalist who I'll introduce in a moment, Dave Krieger, here, best author. What do you call it when the UN says, don't worry, it isn't about your guns, but the UN's always said they don't believe individuals can own guns, and then the treaty comes out and it says governments can have them, but you can't, individual states, but it says individuals can't. I mean, what do you call that? A giant hoax? UN caught in giant lie? Leaked treaty does ban guns? I mean, how do you address this so people get the level of this?
Well, it's normally mass confusion. I mean, they don't understand what their rights are and what they're not. A lot of this is subterfuge, especially...
I know, but what headline would you give this? What headline would you give this?
It's basically UN hypocrisy, plagues America. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with... All right, well, I want to properly... massive gun grab.
I'm going to have to come up with a thing during the next break. I'm just going to shelve this for folks. Maximum alert. Get this article out to everybody. It's so important. We'll just post it at Prisonplanet with the other, because headlines are half of it. I mean, UN treachery, UN caught in deception, UN caught in massive deception, gun treaty, restricts individual guns. I mean, how do you say it?
No way, no other way too.
I mean, that's why I'm so wound up.
Sure.
Okay, let me just stop right there. David Krieger is a former major radio market news reporter, 590 AM, one of our affiliates, news director, television news reporter, anchorman, and investigative journalist who has won national and state news awards from Associated Press broadcasters. Dave is a former member of Radio Television News Directors Association. I'm not going to go through his whole bio. He currently serves as a paralegal and legal research analyst for Wade Critchen, an attorney in Dallas, one of the big dogs exposing the mirrors and all these corrupt things with the big banks. And the reason we've got him here today is, I've had a lot of lawyers on the show. People know that. People know I've had a lot of lawyers on the show. And they've done a great job at fighting and beating the banks that come take houses they don't even own, or they foreclose on you through fraud and then don't even have the deed. We're going to break down the basics here and recap it. But you got to call the lawyer. You got to engage them. There's websites, but they're not that clear. There's all this stuff out there. This is one of the biggest frauds in history. But his book goes through all the documents, all the info. It's the latest edition. It goes over it all. Clouded titles. It's available at InfoWarsShop.com. You support his work, our work. But the point is, everybody who's a homeowner needs this, because you've heard about them, like in Florida, the famous case last year, headline, Bank of America foreclosed on. And the police came because they'd taken $1 million house they didn't own. They never had a deed to, been paid for cash a decade before. And they wouldn't follow the court's ruling to pay the people back. That happened. So you've heard about them taking houses that were paid off. You've heard about them selling it and then coming. I had Bank of America buy my loan on a house I had a decade ago. It's a decade ago. This has been going on for a long time. And say, we're foreclosing unless you pay us what's that first money you put in to take care of sales, the property tax?
Well, no, that's your ad valorem property taxes that are paid to the county.
Okay,
that county tax lien.
Yeah, that had been paid in, and they just said it wasn't there when we got the house, even though it was like $3,000 or something. And they were going to take the house over that till I had lawyers get involved. But the point is, the average family doesn't know. But anyways, I'm ranting. This book could save lives, save families, because we're in a war right now. Describe to people how you discovered this, all the lawyers you've interviewed for the book, what you've seen in court, and what's happening, because I talked about this 10 years ago, that they were taking houses without deeds, and people didn't believe it. Now it's out in the open.
Basically, Alex, the way my whole game plan started, I broke my foot. Literally broke my foot, turned it upside down at the instep, and I was laid up in a cast for 9 months, and I started doing gobs and gobs of research and spent 12 hours a day on the internet, glued to what was going on. I cashed out of my last mortgage in 2006. I'm currently mortgage free. And, you know, the one thing I can say about if I wanted to sell my house, I can convey clear title. And that's something that I look at other scenarios. And this is one of the reasons why I've been developing these courses, is because I actually teach other people to do what I do, because a lot of people have lost their jobs. I've got realtors that can't sell houses because there's issues with them. Realtors are afraid to get sued. Brokers are afraid to get sued.
And bottom line, describe the fraud. Describe what happened.
Well, normally what happens is that when this property goes into the MERS system, and they've admitted this. The former CEO of MERS, R.K. Arnold, admitted this in an article that he wrote, basically saying that they split the deed from the note, and the note goes off into Wall Street and it gets securitized. Well, we have basically used the assumptive reasoning that the chain of title does not match the chain of custody of the note. And when you see them going off in two different directions and they come into court, or they attempt to foreclose non-judicially, which is basically putting a notice in the paper, possibly not even noticing the client has absolutely no idea how to fight these things, and that's one of the reasons why I started on this.
And they now admit it's pure fraud, where they've sold the mortgage 10, 20 times sometimes, over and over again, defrauding those that bought it. The original house purchase is just the beginning of it. And I see these cases, though, where they're even taking houses where they're paid off. I mean, exactly. This is a level of just viciousness where they were never even buying a fake deed. They weren't even connected, and Bank of America comes and takes it.
Well, we actually have cases where the investor came in and actually bought the property, and 2 months later, the bank comes in and sends Safeguard out, and they clean the guy's house out, take all his heirlooms, lock the doors, winterize the toilets. The guy paid cash. We've got another case where the homeowner bought 20 acres and a house, and that homeowner got a special warranty deed. The title company failed to do a run-up, which is basically, let's check the entire chain of title to make sure that the people that say that they're conveying this property legally own it. And so here we find out that they didn't actually convey, and actually they conveyed themselves. They quit claim the property to themselves for all apparent reasoning. When you look at this document, it's like, wait a minute, MERS is party, the first part? Well, they can't do that. They're bankruptcy remote.
And again, this is just a fraudulent computer system where there's no judge, juries, courts, courthouses, filings. They just declare in their magic computer they own everything.
That's what they do. And I mean, we have no idea.
Just like derivatives, just like everything. It's total la-la land, but they have the military behind them.
Well, and the problem with all of this is that when they come in and we've actually had situations where the military has showed up on the front lawn, SWAT teams have showed up on the front lawn to a company because they got some word. We had a guy that was evicted from his apartment in California, as you probably were aware, where they actually filled the apartment with CS gas and then ignited it and burned the guy to a crisp. And all it was an eviction notice, and the guy actually pulled his gun and shot the deputy and shot the locksmith that was breaking in. So, you know, all these things, basically, it's a...
Yeah, well, they burn people out on purpose now. That's the big trick. They pump in flammable CS, then torch you.
Exactly.
To make sure foreign banks can take a house they don't own, yeah.
Well, this has happened a lot, and this is one of the reasons why I put the book out, is because what you're seeing now is homeowners exposed to double liability after the sale.
And why do they do this particularly to Americans? I know it happens some in Europe. Are we just known as the ultimate galactic chumps, that this is the place where people just roll over to anything?
Well, this all started out basically in the Clinton area with everybody can own a house. I mean, home ownership was a big deal. And so from what we're seeing from all the research, you know, starting from the Clinton area moving forward, you know, they're basically saying everybody needs to own a house, and the banks capitalized on this, and they basically took money from our 401ks that we basically...
Well, yeah, the banks were running Clinton. They got rid of Glass-Steagall.
They're in the middle of it.
Exactly. Let's break down the fraud and why this book is so important. I mean, you've got all the files, the documents, how to do it, what's been successful, the precedents, but it's easy to read. And let me tell you, they're like vampires. This is like a big cross when they see this book. It's clouded titles available right now at InfoWarsShop.com. We'll be back with Dave Krieger straight ahead.
Hi.
Dave Krieger is our guest. I am so